It's actually a history video, but on the screen you see someone pushing a piano through the streets of Paris towards the Eiffel Tower. His name is Samuel. And why is he pushing a piano? Because he is going to propose to his girlfriend Maya at the place where he is pushing the piano. It's a romantic beginning you wouldn't expect from a history video. In case you're wondering, Samuel is dragging the piano wherever he wants. And he surprises Maya and proposes to her. Of course, Maya says yes to this romantic proposal. Moreover, when it starts snowing right after the proposal, it creates an even more unforgettable proposal memory. Please accept that this is a softer start than other videos on our channel. This video will not tell the history of marriage proposals. It's actually a good video topic, and I took notes. The ease with which Samuel was able to push the piano through Paris and take it wherever he wanted actually dates back to the 1860s. After the Industrial Revolution, some workers became unemployed. Economic inequalities increased in European countries. This even led to clashes in the streets. Perhaps the most important of these cities is Paris. The city's population grew from 750,000 in 1831 to more than 1 million in 1846 within 15 years. You are now seeing a video of Paris in 1890 on the screen. As you can see, Paris was crowded even then. Paris was at war with cholera and typhoid during this period. Narrow streets, lack of infrastructure, a growing population, and conflicts between the population made for a city that was difficult to manage. While Paris was in this state, Charles Louis, the exiled nephew of Napoleon I, returned to France. In 1848, he was elected to the Chamber of Deputies. In December 1848, he became president with 5 million of the 7 million votes cast. 4 years later, he declared himself emperor. He was now Louis Napoleon Bonaparte. In other words, Napoleon III. And yes, that's a camel in Paris. You're watching a lady walking proudly with that camel. Now let's take a look at Paris from above. As you will see, the streets in Paris are flat, and you can push a piano all the time. It's as if they were drawn with a ruler. Actually, they were drawn with a ruler. You are looking at a map of Paris in 1800. Before the Great Intervention in 1860, the roads are a bit intertwined and chaotic. Let me overlay the same map for you to compare it with today. I think you can see the big change. In the 1800s, the roads made it easier for those who rioted, rebelled against the government, barricaded themselves in the streets, and clashed with the army. It was risky for a policeman or soldier chasing a criminal to shoot after him. Narrow streets made it easier to blend in with innocent people. Wide and straight streets were necessary. Napoleon III spent 12 years of his exile in London. His plan was to turn Paris into a city with wide boulevards and parks like London. London was forced to rid itself of its medieval trappings in 1666. The Great Fire of London created the opportunity for the city to rebuild and become more contemporary. For the renovation of Paris, he contacted Georges Eugène Haussmann, who was both bourgeois and from a military family. Napoleon III hired Baron Haussmann as his prefect of the Seine. Emperor Napoleon III summoned Haussmann, and his request was clear. He draws 3 lines across the city on a map. One of these lines divides the city from north to south. The other 2 divide the city east-west on either side of the Seine. Anything along these lines, no matter how crowded or historic, would be demolished and replaced with wide boulevards. Thus began the largest urban transformation history had ever seen, which voluntarily turned the city into a huge construction site for 17 years. With the principle that bullets cannot turn the corner, demolition begins for the avenues that will cut through the city. The leaders of the Paris Commune, i.e., the city government, realized what was going to happen, and they hired photographers to take pictures of the buildings and streets before Haussmann leveled them. Many of the photos were used by Leonard Pitt in his book, Walks Through Lost Paris. His book takes you through the streets of Paris, and is a pictorial now and then of contemporary pictures shown alongside the photos taken in the 1860s. On Haussmann's orders, a total of 12,000 buildings, including many important monuments, were demolished in this historic, chaotic, and labyrinthine center of Paris. Interestingly, Haussmann's own house was among them. Haussmann's marching orders were to yank Paris out from its medieval roots and open it up. Haussmann created what we see today. It was the most elaborate sewer system in Europe at the time. He also more than doubled the amount of fresh water to each Parisian. Haussmann designed the large areas opened after the demolitions, as they are preserved in today's Paris. He worked with famous architects of the period for the symbolic buildings to be built in these areas. In order to bring the trains, the most important means of transportation of the day, to the city center, Haussmann made the streets as wide as possible and built a train station, Gare du Nord, in the heart of the city. In fact, the main lines of the Paris metro were built on these streets in the following years. And what reward do you think Haussmann received from Napoleon III for such achievements? Surprisingly, he asked for Haussmann's resignation. The people of Paris were looking at the money spent, not the beautification of the city. In today's money, 80 billion euros had been spent. Napoleon made Haussmann look guilty and asked for his resignation so that the people would not take out their anger on him. However, Haussmann refused this offer and did not resign, thinking that if he resigned, it would be thought that he regretted his work. He was then fired by the emperor. After the defeat of France to Prussia, the people took to the streets again. They realize how numerous they are in the wide squares Napoleon willingly built, as opposed to the narrow streets, and protests increase. Eventually, they demanded the impeachment of the emperor. The emperor was deposed in 1870, and the Third Republic was established. Haussmann dies in poverty in a rented apartment in 1891. Some remember him for his destruction, others for his great works. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a comment, like, share, and subscribe. It's a lot to ask, but this channel will grow with you. Thank you for watching.